Final Fantasy has always caught my attention, but I would completely lose the desire to dive into the game because it's turn-based. I don't like turn-based games, but here I am on this journey to give it a try. Soon I should be playing something live, but Final Fantasy really grabbed my attention and got me hyped back when I saw the trailer at E3 for Final Fantasy 15. Man, that really and truly caught my eye, and all of it seemed far too amazing to be entirely true. Hi, I'm Vale, and in this video I'm going to share my experience with Final Fantasy 15. And just so you know, I've never had any interaction with Final Fantasy except that I watched the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children movie. Good movie, by the way, okay? Even though I didn't understand anything because I never played 7. Oh my god, but it's a great movie. By the way, Final Fantasy VII is on my list for us to finish live on stream. Yes, the game in its PlayStation 1 version, and then we'll do the remakes. And of course, I also plan to bring an analysis to the channel, so go ahead and subscribe because this adventure is going to be really wild. Final Fantasy 15 follows the journey of Noctis Lucis Caelum, the prince of the kingdom of Lucis, who sets out on a trip with his best friends Gladius, Ignis, and Prompto to reclaim his throne and fulfill his destiny. The story begins when Noctis leaves the capital to marry Lady Lunafreya of Tenebrae as part of a peace agreement with the Empire of Niflheim. However, during the journey, they discover that Niflheim has betrayed Lucis, invading the kingdom and stealing the crystal, the nation's source of magical power. So our goal is to reclaim the throne that was stolen from us. One thing that always kept me away from the Final Fantasy franchise was its turn-based gameplay, and Final Fantasy 15 did something completely different, which made me want to get to know the game. The gameplay is quite good, it responds very well, but of course, it could certainly be even better in some specific aspects. I also fully understand that a significant part of it comes from the game's overall direction and the deliberate attempt to maintain its fundamental roots despite the various changes. Final Fantasy 15 truly offers an interesting and engaging journey. The fact that you're with your friends and how that works throughout the journey was very well done. The interactions between the characters are really fun and the dialogues are good. Another thing that really impressed me is the game's art direction and the richness of its universe. Man, at any moment you'll find yourself stopping just to admire the stunning scenery in this game because it's really truly beautiful. The variety of weapons is a really strong point, and the way you can switch between them during battle is very dynamic and engaging. The character design is also very well done, and Noctis really reminds me of Sasuke. And some of the villains have really cool designs. I really like how the game manages to blend all this technology with the mystical. It truly is a Final Fantasy. One thing that bothered me during gameplay is that our stamina runs out pretty quickly. So we have to use the circle button to hang on to something and recharge. And man, I really hated that because it totally breaks the flow of battle and disrupts the game's gameplay rhythm. It's really bad because sometimes you're in the middle of an intense fight, pulling off combos and everything, and then suddenly you realize, damn, my stamina's gone, I need to recharge. So you have to step aside, hang there for a bit, and recharge. That really breaks the game's rhythm. At the start of the game, it's not so bad, but as you go on, it gets really annoying. It really disrupts the flow of battles, especially in more confined spaces. Driving the car might seem cool on your first few trips, but it's actually the thing that kills the game's exploration the most. Driving the car is slow and boring, and when you actually take control of the car, you barely have any control. There are even some missions where the distances are really long, and having to drive all the way there is just really annoying. They could have made the gameplay here a bit more arcade style when it comes to driving, you know? I'll give a very simple example like GTA, where you can drive anywhere easily, go off-road, jump. I think it would be a lot more fun, and the exploration aspect of the game would be much cooler. And sometimes this thing where the game tries to go for a more realistic approach really kills it. That's what happens here in Final Fantasy 15. And driving the car really discourages you from wanting to travel from one point to another to do side missions. And this issue with the driving mechanics killed off one of the things that could have been the most fun in the game. A huge wasted opportunity? After the Leviathan arc, we also have a big problem, right? At the start of the game, in its first half, you can really explore a lot. You have more side quests to do, but once you reach Leviathan, it feels like the game was stitched together and becomes very linear. Seriously, I was really bothered because it felt like I was playing something else. The game changes. And it's bizarre because I kept asking myself, man, I need to level up my characters and all that. How am I supposed to do that, right? Like, it's super linear. When is the game going to open up and let me explore again? And that, man, honestly really killed the game. But why did that happen? Final Fantasy XV had countless problems during its development. The director changed, the graphics engine changed. This delayed the project a lot, which was originally supposed to be released back on the PlayStation 3. This is clear in the game because you notice that after the Leviathan part, it really rushes things, and that essence and all the grandeur from the beginning gets left behind. And whether you like it or not, I think it should have had more development time because they really killed the game here. And I know that Square was probably already desperate after so many years. This thing had been in development for so long that they were like, man, you guys need to deliver this. I want to get my money, dude. We've been bleeding for way too long already. And I get that side of the company too because it's kind of complicated, right? Look, a game this dense with so many dialogues, it really needs voice acting, man. And not having voice acting is a huge mistake by Square Enix here because honestly, with voice acting, I think the game would feel much more dynamic, especially during the car scenes. I think you'd get more out of it and be able to focus more on the story, you know, especially when it comes to the relationships between the characters. And a game without voice acting kills the immersion, especially in action scenes. When the characters are talking to each other while you're fighting a monster, you're not really paying attention to the dialogue, especially if your English isn't that advanced. And you're not going to keep reading subtitles either, right? For God's sake, man. Look, regarding the interface, I think it's okay, but something that really bothers me is that some elements feel a bit out of place in the game. But analyzing the franchise and looking at the other games, I saw that they've kept the same interface style since the Super Nintendo days. Of course, they've modernized it a bit, but they stick to that, and I found this detail pretty interesting. And something that really bothers me in games of this style is when you hit a character and the damage interface keeps popping up. Man, for me, that just clutters the game way too much. Just having the health bar is enough, right? There's already a health bar, you don't need anything else. And it gets really bad, for the love of God, don't put that in, it ruins the immersion. I don't know, the screen just gets way too cluttered, I don't like it. I don't like it when there are numbers popping up when you deal damage to a character. When it comes to the soundtrack, this is where the game really shines. The audio work and the soundtrack are phenomenal. Guys, it's just great music, epic music, man, in those moments. Oh my god, seriously, just opening the menu, you can already tell the soundtrack is top quality. And then, in the final scene of this game, man, the soundtrack, are you kidding me? It's pure cinema, absolutely cinematic. I don't even know what to say. But man, what a work of art. It really is a masterpiece. I have nothing to complain about. It's a true work of art. And I think it's really important for us to emphasize the soundtrack because the music motivates us as players. It creates tension, and in sad moments, it really conveys those feelings. So the soundtrack is really quite important for effectively telling the story. This is true both in movies and in video games as well, and that's really quite cool. And here in Final Fantasy, the work is truly phenomenal, right? From the most peaceful soundtracks to the battle themes, right? Is really the soundtrack that brings out the epic feel, and it works. They really deliver on that here. Final Fantasy XV is a cool adventure, but the game feels like a puzzle in its narrative, especially since it handles its cross-media aspects so poorly. Not to mention that after Leviathan, we have this problem where it becomes super linear. We also have, for example, a demo that came out on PlayStation 4, right? I think it's called Final Fantasy Platinum, and man, where is this DLC? Because it's not in the game's content, right? You play as a younger Noctis. So, I think they really got lost when it came to telling the story, sometimes developing some characters, and they actually released a lot of DLCs to tell the stories of other characters, to develop things that should have been part of the game's linear progression. And after that time skip of a few years near the end of the game, that's when you really get lost regarding the characters. It was a huge mistake not to have worked on this better. It ended up being very confusing, especially this whole cross cross-media aspect of the game, man. There's an anime, there's a movie, and all of this is supposed to connect, but it doesn't work, man. You have to do cross-media properly. I think cross-media works when it's post-game, post-movie, not when it comes before the main content. For example, for me to play the game or to understand some things, I have to watch the movie, I have to watch the anime or the DLCs too, right? The DLC should have been something that explores the post-game more, not something that should already be in the main story, you know what I mean? And I think Square should have noticed these problems and split the game into parts just like they did with the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It would give the development team some breathing room, and from a business perspective, the game would be able to bring in returns so the team could work much more comfortably on the next games, since all the basics would already be set. But despite all these problems, it's a very fun game and did a phenomenal job of getting more people interested in checking out the other games in the franchise. I'm speaking for myself here. Even though it's turn-based combat, I got curious to play the other games in the franchise and get to know them. So I think the role of this game is to bring new people into the franchise, but honestly, Square really should have split this game up. I don't know why they didn't split up the other games. For example, Final Fantasy 13, right? I think 13 on the Xbox 360 was split as well, so they really messed up by not doing that here, man. And have you played Final Fantasy 15? Did you like the game? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and right here on the side you can also check out my other reviews. If you're watching this video in the future, maybe there's already a playlist with my other Final Fantasy game reviews. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a super like, it really helps a lot. We're getting close to 5,000 subscribers, so let's go. Do you think we can hit 10K this year too? Or am I asking for too much already? Leave a like, it really helps, and comment below. Let's discuss the game. If you finished it too, what did you think about it? That's it for now, I'll stop here. Thanks and see you next time.